A very warm welcome to the Nancy Stevens Arts and Style Show, where you can expect to be entertained, amused, and excited by my amazing guests, anyone who's anyone in the arts and style world. And welcome to the isolation interview with Susana Silverhøj. Is that the way you pronounce your name?
Well, there are so many ways of pronouncing my name, so let's just go with that. I don't really mind.
But obviously you're Danish. What's the pronunciation?
Well, actually, I am Swedish, so in Sweden I would say Silverhøj, and in Danish I would say Silverhøj.
Ah, okay.
So.
Okay. So Silverhøj. It's almost you're not saying the J. Okay.
Yeah, it's more like Høj.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I've learned something.
Yeah.
So Susana is one of these amazing people who literally wears every single hat possible. That's how we bonded, really. She's an academic, an author, actress, coach, podcaster extraordinaire, and an all-round superhero. I mean, there's nothing this woman doesn't manage to do and do it really well. And she has the biggest heart on the planet. She really is extraordinary. So I'm so glad to have you on my show, and thank you for sharing your time and your energy, because you really do exude the most incredible amount of energy.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so happy to be here and guesting you, because also it's been a while since I was in the more art and style, community or what to call it. And yet not, because it's such an integrated part of me. But the theater and acting and that type of things it's almost like my previous life.
Absolutely. And I think the reason we bonded is that we're both creatives, but both completely and utterly bonkers, and your kind of mission is extraordinary. I mean, you can explain it better than I can. You've done so much with your life. I mean, I look at what you've done. You're a proper academic. I mean, 2 masters, I mean, no less, and so young still as well. Associate professor in nutrition and health in Denmark, hotel manager in Costa Rica, that's exotic, an actress in New York, heart IQ coach, high performance and the art of feminine presence teacher, and a superhero. So tell us in a nutshell, how on earth where did it all start in terms of when you were a little girl? Did you think, I want to be a superhero, I'm going to smash it?
Nope. It was actually, I think it started the other way around. I always have felt like an alien and never fitted in. And it's out of my misery and pain that I have really gone into this lifestyle where it's like, I need to find somewhere that I feel that I fit in, or that I can be me. Because I think I always been the chameleon. I could fit in every group, but I never felt I was home or fitted in anywhere at the same time. So it's always been this contradictory push-pull kind of reality. And I come from this very small town in Sweden where everybody knows everyone, and I always just observe people, and I'm like, how do we play this game here on the planet? And I never really, So I went to I actually went to hairdresser school because of where I become also like a stylist and things, because it's part of my family heritage. My aunt and my grandma was hairdressers and stylists, and my other aunt, she was this stylist as well. So I was like, oh, okay, I don't want to study. So that's how I got into that. And then I was like, oh shit, this is not me, because I didn't do it because I loved it. I'm actually brilliant at doing it because I have, as you say, like this creative, I'm a very creative soul. So I paint and photography, acting, all of those creative type of things that I explore. So also hair and styling, as you know, is all about, you know, being creative and you know, how do we mold and form and bring out the beauty within us and bring out beauty in everything and everyone. And I think that is also what always is driving me, uh, doing it more like a mentoring, coaching, and things these days, is really that drive to have people to feel good about themselves and bring out the beauty and the full potential within everyone.
And that's how, and I think that's how we bonded, was that, you know, so these both these bonkers creatives, but that whole not fitting in and
Yeah.
being a, you know, and obviously I've been a guest on your amazing podcast, which was just such a pleasure. I cannot tell you, I'm still buzzing. And you know, you're so generous with your time and your energy, but you know, your love of life and your, you know, your use of color and language and everything fascinates me. And I say, I think that's why we just clicked, because we've both spent our lives as, you know, slightly odd, looking the outside looking in, thinking, oh well, I don't quite fit in, but you know, so you end up being a bit of a chameleon, and it can be quite exhausting. And I
Yep.
think, you know, finding your true self eventually is like, oh, I get it now. And you don't have to be one person. And again, that's something we talked about on your show, is that you don't just have to wear one hat. You don't have to just be one thing. I know that's what the Western world expects of you, but I love the fact you've done all this stuff and still not lost sight of Susana and that creative love, and that, you know, that person that you were in the beginning.
Well, I think it actually is more that it's been a very, in a way, selfish way of being on this long journey, is because I didn't know who I was, and I really, that search for myself, and it's like, it's got to be somewhere that I feel I belong and fit in. So it is
I
really
so get this.
so it's really that has been a big driving force, and tried all these different things, and then coming to at one point to realization that it's all these different things that makes me who I am. And so that has brought me home to really feel like I don't give a shit what other people think, or
Yeah.
you know. And but oh my god, it's been through misery and heartache and pain that I reached. And I think that is also what I want to support people with. It's like, them, you know, take the shortcut. You don't have to go through the hard way that I did.
Absolutely, and that's what you teach. That's what your podcast is all about, is empowering and helping people, not having to go through the same thing that you obviously went through. I mean, we talked about this when I was on your show as well. It's a long and painful process. Tell me about the acting, though. I mean, where did that come? How did that come about? And was there were there any acting jobs that you did that you absolutely loved and thought, this is it?
Well, I think again, it's like my life is quite different, because as I am very like cosmic being, I get messages and I connect with other realms that most people don't even understand. So there are times where I just get an information. It's like, oh, this is what you're going to do, and then I'm like, oh, okay, and I try it. And so that is how I got into acting, because I had lived in San Francisco for a couple of years, and instead of moving back home to my hometown, I moved to Stockholm, because we were a bunch of people meeting in the States that decided to move there. And I was like, oh, okay, what am I going to do here? I have to figure something out, how to grow up. And I saw an ad of this acting school in Stockholm. I'm like, I just had that message. It's like, oh, you should go. I'm like, huh, really? You know, I remember we had some musicals and stuff like that at school when I was a kid that I just loved. But, you know, from there to actually, you know, take it in that professional way, education, it felt like a fetched, but I was like, oh, okay, I'll go and audition and see how it goes. And I got in, and I loved it. And, you know, and I think acting for me has been great therapy, because it really shows me where I haven't dared to be me, and where I'm holding back. And so it was the best therapy in a way. And then when I were done in Stockholm after a couple of years, again, I just had this message that I should go and go to film school in New York. And I was like, oh, come on. You know, like, seriously?
Really?
Yeah. First time I was in New York, when I went to see someone I had met when I lived in San Francisco. I kind of had that when I walked into New York, and I was like, okay, I'm going to live here for a year. And I was like, oh, come on, stop it. You know, okay, I don't know. But then I shoved that away. So when I was done with acting school, that message came back. And it's like, okay, you're going to New York and you're going to be there for a year, which doesn't really make sense, but because all the schools there, acting schools, are either for 2, 3, or 4 years.
Absolutely.
But and they said, it's just like, everyone I spoke to, they're like, no, you can't go, it's impossible, because it actually takes they take, like, 10% from abroad, which means, and a lot of these schools only have small classes of 10, which means just one from the whole rest of the world outside the States. So the chances and odds are not very large. But actually, I applied to like 4 schools or something. They were all between 2 and 4 years. And I was like, oh, let's see what happens. And I got into 3 of them. And when I was tuning into, it's like, oh, what would feel most fun to do? And, it was the film and so it was just like screen acting instead of theater. And the principal at that school, he said, okay, if you read this book, you can, jump on and start second year right away. I was like, oh, okay, I'll read the book. So that's how, it's like I ended up being a year and graduating acting school there. And I had so much fun and everything. But then it was just like, when I came back to Stockholm, I had great connections, everything, went to all these parties, also in New York, and it had limos coming, and we really lived there, it was like Sex and the City life, It's just like, it was really cool. And, have the doorman just like, going in, just like lead you to the VIP and all of that glitter and glamour kind of lifestyle. And what really kept bothering me was that every time I was in connection, talk to people, they always look at you up and down to see if you're skinny enough, if you're, it's always about
that look.
The look.
Yeah.
And I felt like, I came to realize the reason I wanted to be an actress was because I wanted to have influence and make a difference in the world, and I want to help people, and I want to be on stage, because it's like another of those weird visions I've had. I've seen myself, on stage in front of thousands of people, so that's also like, oh, I must be an actress, then that's how limited my mind was. It's like stage acting, that must be it. And now I do it, it's like, now it does, I do it not because the way I look, but now it's really coming from my heart and wanting to make a difference and help people. So it just, the twists and turns and irony of life, it's it's
mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think obviously you utilize your acting skills, because I think the thing about acting is that you can sort of fit it in everywhere, is because as an actress you have to be adaptable. But How did you then decide you wanted to be an academic and a coach? And because obviously that's quite a leap, in terms of professions. And most people would maybe stay down that route and they'd be knocking on doors and waiting on tables for years till they got their big break. You obviously thought, well, you wanted something else, and you've written all these books as well. I mean, there's so much depth to you. Did you feel then, okay, I've done this, now I want to do this other stuff now?
No, I don't think I'm that intelligent that I could, it's actually more.
You could just lie and go, yeah, I have this plan.
No, no. It's one of those things where, like, now what? Okay, I read, because every time it was so weird. I really, did bang my head and really trying to make it in acting and stuff. And there were all these weird stuff happening that I would miss the calls, or I didn't get the emails for callbacks. And, so it was like, why is this happening? So it's more out of, misery that, again, this is like, it must, reading the signs.
Yeah.
I could have just had, when they call me and want me to be on a show, why is it that my what do you call it? It's like answering machine just broke that, like, so the message is erased.
Yeah. So not meant to be. Not
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's more out of that. And then, so I was more like a parallel. I kept on auditioning and, doing little things here and there. But then, you need to do something else as well. So I started to study. And then I realized that it was actually more out of laziness that I was like, I can start study at university, because in Sweden you can study for free. It doesn't cost you. And actually a way to get, you can get a student loan, so you have some money every month, so I can, pursue my acting. Okay. So it was more of that. It was like, I can study English. I've lived in the States. It will be easy to study English at university. And so that's how I started at university. And then I loved it because I never liked being at school, and I never wanted to commit myself to long educations.
Which is ironic.
I know. And then I loved being at university because it was like, ooh, and I kept on going for 7 or 8 years because I just loved it, because I could pick and choose. It's like, ooh, what am I going to learn now? And then like tailor my own education. Yeah, I'm such a sponge. And then actually that is how I became working as the associate professor at nutrition and health, was that I realized that I couldn't study anymore. And I was actually about to take a bachelor degree in anthropology when I just like ran out of student loan money. And I was like, okay, I need to grow up. And I was like, ooh, I can work as a teacher, because then I can study and, do what I like to learn more, but get paid for it. So it's just like, that's my life. That's how,
but not what you expected. And I mean,
no.
But I think obviously because you've done all these things, I think it's given you the ability to share the way that you do, and say you have the biggest heart and so much energy and so much to give. And let's talk about the podcast. I mean, it's an extraordinary success story. I mean, I can only dream of a quarter of your success. It's amazing and so deserved. I mean, it's called Live the Impossible. And I love the fact that it literally does what it says on the tin. You have all sorts of different amazing bonkers guests from all walks of life. And it is about living the impossible. Was that an easy title to come up with, bearing in mind that is what you're trying to achieve?
It was one of those messages again. So it wasn't like, it was more the things that come to me. Because we wanted to have a catchy phrase for our mentoring programs that my husband and I do. And so there's like the tagline. it was like, what is the essence of everything we do? And one of the things is that a lot of people, it's like, no, it's impossible, you can't do that. And we're like, well, but we have, and then it's not impossible. So that is basically how it came together. And it was like, oh, we lived the impossible. And even the title, people say, it's just like, no, you can't have that because it's such contradictory. You know?
Bit of an oxymoron.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it was, but that is how everything is possible if we perceive it, if it is. So it's a very empowering way of, like, it doesn't feel good to feel it's impossible to do something, then I feel trapped. And that is like, I'm one of those very free spirit. I want to do what I want, when I want, and how I want it. And I hate when people come and tell me what I can and cannot do. So it's also like my stubborn little girl who says like, who are you to tell me what I can do? So that's basically how we came up with the podcast. And it's been a magnificent collaboration and really been so much fun. And I think that is also why it's becoming a very, we just launched it 2 months ago. But we've been on charts in 13 countries now. Belgium was the latest one the other day, but it's just like this co-creation of just having fun. And I think that is what makes it something successful, because when it just is a great energy when you love what you do. So no matter what path we take, it's the joy and passion that really makes this a magnetic field we have around us very attractive. And that is also where I feel the fear, the overwhelm, and everything that people feel now. It's like, now what? If we can tap into our curiosity and have, be a little bit excited about what will come. It's there's infinite possibilities coming out of this lockdown and the situation these days, and we shouldn't fear it. Or even if we feel fear, jump anyway, because that's through that we can live the impossible.
Absolutely is, it is scary, but I think most people only live a quarter of their life. They only use 10% of their brain, and all. I mean, I'm preaching to the converted here, but most people are so fearful, and they do the routine stuff. They go to work, they come home, they watch telly, they go to work, and there's nothing else. And I feel so frustrated, because I just think everybody has the most enormous potential to do way more than they ever think they can, and more, and they don't. And for people like you and I who are enablers, they say, come on guys, just get to it, just
let's shake them, come on.
Like, get off that couch, stop watching crap telly, and just see what's out there. What's the worst thing that can happen? And that's, and I think again, I think that's why I just loved I love the concept and everything that you do, and also obviously you create boot camps and workshops and retreat. I'd love to go on one of your retreats. Oh my God.
Oh, you will love so Naz, you will love what we're putting together right now. I have a new book coming that a friend and I started to write in October. So it's been one of those extraordinary journeys where we didn't actually know how it will look, or we just like, oh, this could be fun. And it's called Holy Fuck and Sacred Waters: The Secret Connections to Everything. And it's really about tuning in and find different ways of empowering, and see what are the things that holds us back, and come back to the balance, and the balance of our fire and water and elements, and that, because it's everywhere, because we need to have a thriving world. We need, the planet is screaming for our help, and we as and particularly as women have have come down here, in my opinion, as I see, we reincarnate and everything, and we come back, and we are here. We chose to come in this time, and where everything, all the dark shit that is happening, and so much fear, but it's all, everything comes to the surface so we can be transmuted and shifted. And that's why it's so important we work with that. So that is also what our new programs will be a lot about, the embodiment of, and really, shift through our fears and limitations, and live life to the fullest.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds so exciting. I can't wait to find out more and follow everything that you do with such interest. So yeah, nutrition's really important to you as well, isn't it? And I know you homeschool your children. Just to kind of just to briefly sort of explain why you decided, before the whole world had to homeschool their kids, you and Oliver decided to homeschool your children.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, it was out of, in a way, necessity, because our children didn't thrive at school. And we it was particularly our son, that the oldest son, who's now 13, and he was started to act out and became very explosive. And we realized it's because he's this super sensitive person. He feels everybody's energy, so he will react everything out that we don't take ownership of. So in a class where it's so many children, where it's over 30, it's too much for his system. And he would come home and crying, saying, it's like, Mom, I don't know why I'm doing this, but this, and so we decided that, well, there's nothing wrong with him, and I'm not going to give him a diagnosis just because he doesn't fit in
that box.
So that's also, it's like, it became a more natural, because we moved to Costa Rica, and so it became like a sliding, it wasn't like one date to the other. It was over a few years. We tried different things, because there is a lot of fear that was like, ooh, am I ruining our kids? And like we all want what's best for our kids, and we don't know, but just see how they thrive now, and where they, like our daughter, she's like, oh, so Mom, I really can you need to look into what online programs there are, so I can, they ask to learn. And it's, again, that passion that drives them to learn instead of they have to. And
like their mummy and daddy. I mean, it's such a lovely, heartwarming story, and you and Oliver are so inspirational, and I'm so thrilled for your success of the podcast. So to recap, how do we find the podcast? How do we find out about you?
You can find all on every podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, everything, and it's called the Live the Impossible Show. And we also have a website, livetheimpossible.today, where all the episodes and things about us. And there's also links to where you can also get a freebie with some exercise and reactivations, and some weird woo-woo stuff, and
love a bit of woo-woo.
And practical tips and health things, and so we have all these different programs that also comes from that platform. You can find our mentoring programs at silverhøj.com. And but basically we also have travel blog, conscioustravelfamily.com. We have so many different places so you can go to, so it's easier to just go to one and then go from there. We'll link to the other places from there.
Thank you. Absolutely. Well, I say you are living, breathing proof of living the impossible, Susana Silverhøj. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute joy. Your energy is just infectious, and I'm so glad to know you. So thank you so much, and thank you for having me as a guest on your show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you so much. It's been so much fun to reconnect again.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the Nancy Stevens Arts and Style Show, passionate about all things arts and style. Catch us on all major platforms and YouTube, Nancy Stevens Arts and Style Show.